6:30 in the evening in Australia and 9:30 in the morning in the United Kingdom. Live from New Delhi, you are watching DD India, India's voice to the world. I am Deepika Mehto, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Tensions mount in Taiwan Strait as China launches military drills as stern warning to Taiwan.
We are facing the worst wildfire season in our province's history.
Canada's western province of British Columbia declares state of emergency due to the wildfires. Evacuation order issued. India's Prime Minister addresses G20 meet, pushes to create a secure, trusted and resilient digital economy. While tensions continue to escalate in the Taiwan Strait, the Chinese army has released a video of military exercises it held around Taiwan. The video shows Chinese fighter jets and naval warships participating in the joint combat training exercise. The move is seen as a response to Taiwan's Vice President William Lai's recent visit to the United States. Lai, the frontrunner in Taiwan's upcoming presidential election, returned from a brief stopover in the United States on Friday. Beijing officials are claiming the drills are a stern warning to Taipei. Taiwan too has released a video showing its military forces in action after China began drills around the island. Taiwan's defense ministry strongly condemned the drills, saying it will send appropriate forces to retaliate, adding that it has the capability, determination and confidence to maintain national security. Taiwan claims it has detected 42 Chinese aircraft and 8 ships involved in drills around the island. For more on this, let's now speak to DD India correspondent Andrew Wood in Hong Kong. Hi, Andrew. Now let's talk about what's happening with the recent update. Well, China's joint air and sea patrol comes at a time when the US successfully wrapped up its landmark summit with South Korea and Japan. But if we talk about China, they say the exercises are meant to test China's military ability to fight in real combat conditions. So what real combat conditions are we talking about here amidst growing tensions between the US and China over Taiwan? Andrew.
Well, President Xi Jinping is the first Chinese leader in recent history to say that the issue of Taiwan, this renegade province that's part of China as Beijing sees it, the issue should not be kept being passed from generation to generation, but he's going to try and sort it out. And he's given the People's Liberation Army, the military, a date of 2030 to be ready for an invasion if necessary. So there are practical aspects to this. If you're preparing for an invasion, even if it is in 7 years' time, you've got to train for it. The timing, of course, well, as you say, Taiwan's vice president has passed through America, stopped off, and he made comments there when he was in America. He was going to and from a presidential inauguration in Paraguay. And China doesn't like Taiwan politicians to act in any way that makes it look like they're being treated as representatives of an independent sovereign nation. And then, of course, there is the Camp David meeting between President Yoon, Prime Minister Kishida, and President Joe Biden as well. I always find it surprising that both Japan and South Korea are strong allies of America. They both have tens of thousands of American troops based there to help defend them and also help defend America. But they don't talk to each other very much. There's still a lot of bad blood between South Korea and Japan over hundreds of years, going back hundreds of years and more recently in the past century over a rather brutal colonial period when Korea was a colony. So it's China, it's Beijing reminding everybody there that they are serious, that Beijing is serious about its intentions for Taiwan, and it doesn't really want its its rivals, America, Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea, to feel too comfortable about their newfound, perhaps, friendship.
A very important information that you've given over here about the date, which is 2030, the year that has been said. Now, considering all these facts, how the US is expected to react to this, as also US is one of Taiwan's strongest international backers and weapons suppliers?
Yes, it's a complicated diplomatic and political position. America recognizes Beijing as being the capital of China, and it talks about there only being one China, and it doesn't recognize Taiwan as being, that implies that it recognizes Taiwan as being part of that China. But at the same time, America, by law, has to help the authorities of Taiwan. The law is rather vague here. It has a legal responsibility to help the people who run Taiwan defend themselves against aggression. And it also, as well, America says that the issue of Taiwan, whether it's part of China, whether it should be an independent sovereign state or not, is something that should be decided peacefully. And it's prepared to stand by, it's not prepared to stand by in theory and let Taiwan be bullied. President Biden has approved hundreds of millions of dollars, I'm afraid, my apologies, of more military aid to Taiwan. Some of it's taking a rather long time to get there, but it certainly is a sign to Beijing that America is not, or tries to say to Beijing, look,
right,
we're not going to abandon Taiwan at the moment, even if you think that by helping Taiwan militarily, we're messing around in what Beijing considers its own domestic backyard.
Right. Thank you so much, Andrew Wood, for joining us live from Hong Kong and bringing us those information details about the recent development. Well, South Africa is now all set to host the 15th edition of the annual BRICS Summit in Johannesburg next week. BRICS represents the group of major emerging economies made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will represent India and also engage with his BRICS counterparts. Russian President Vladimir Putin of Russia will not attend in person but will join virtually. Now, BRICS nations make up 41% of the global population and around 24% of global GDP. And Shubhendu Ghosh now joins us from Johannesburg to bring us more perspective on the BRICS Summit. Thank you, Shubhendu, for joining us here on DD India Live. Now, over the years, BRICS has emerged as one of the strongest grouping, which is stronger than any other alliances, Shubhendu. So what are the reasons for it, as more and more nations have now expressed their intention to join BRICS, considering the geopolitical tensions also that we are witnessing right now? Shubhendu.
Right, Deepika, it's good morning from Johannesburg. It's still 3.5 hours behind New Delhi. Talking about the strength of BRICS, it derives its strengths primarily from the manner in which like-minded countries have come together. We're talking about leading emerging economies, developing economies that have come together, the 5 BRICS nations that together form this grouping. Now, developing economy, the strength of their economy that is growing and rising is the focus also of the manner in which this deliberation is going forward. And talking about the vision that the BRICS carries forward, the BRICS talks about the manner in which the concerns, the priorities of the developing economy can be taken forward, whether it is climate change, whether it is post-pandemic recovery, whether it is reforming multilateral institutions, particularly financial bodies. Those are the concerns, common priorities with which the BRICS nation work. And given that their vision resonates with the ideas of the other developing countries, poorer countries, that is also the reason for its growing popularity and so many countries that want to be part of this grouping. And if I can inform you, in the 15th edition of BRICS, there are developing countries who have come in from Asia, from Africa, from Latin America, who are all being invited as guests to participate in the BRICS summit, when the leaders of the 5 key nations deliberate.
And if we talk about the Indian Prime Minister, who also held a telephonic conversation with Iran's president yesterday, both are also expected to meet on the sidelines of this BRICS summit. What are we expecting from the meeting, especially on the lines of Chabahar Port, Shubhendu?
Right. Deepika, specifics of the bilateral, we're yet to learn, and as and when they take place, we'll know more about them. But we have to understand that this is a gathering in Johannesburg, South Africa, of the leading developing countries of the world, not just the core 5 BRICS nations, but as you mentioned, Iran, the countries that I mentioned from different continents, leaders of which are gathering here to talk about their concerns, their priorities, and several bilaterals are also lined up here in Johannesburg. The common theme would be the manner in which the concerns of developing economies and the manner in which they can together negotiate with the wider world, especially the developed countries. That is going to be in focus. As I mentioned about climate change, effective sustainable finance has been a common priority for all developing nations. Those are themes can be deliberated better, and when developing nations come on the same platform, they gain strength to be able to negotiate for themselves as a grouping in a better manner.
Right. Thank you so much, Shubhendu, for joining us and bringing us all those important details about the BRICS summit. Well, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the G20 Digital Economy Ministerial meeting via video message. He said more than 45% of global real-time payments happen in India.
Our unique digital identity platform Aadhaar covers more than 1.3 billion of our people. We have used the power of the GEM Trinity, Jan Dhan bank accounts, Aadhaar and mobile to revolutionize financial inclusion in India. Every month, nearly 10 billion transactions take place on UPI, our instant payment system. More than 45% of the global real-time payments happen in India. Direct benefit transfer of government support is plugging leakages and has saved over $33 billion. The CoWIN portal supported India's COVID vaccination drive. It helped in the delivery of over 2 billion vaccine doses along with digitally verifiable certificates.
The Indian Prime Minister also emphasized on building consensus on the G20 high-level principles for a secure, a trusted and resilient digital economy.
I also welcome your efforts to develop a roadmap to facilitate cross-country comparison of digital skills and to set up a virtual center of excellence on digital skilling. These are important efforts to meet the needs of a workforce which is future ready. As the digital economy spreads globally, it will face security threats and challenges. In this context, it is important to build consensus on the G20 high-level principles for a secure, trusted, and resilient digital economy.
In the southern city of Bengaluru, the draft of G20 Digital Economy Ministerial Declaration will be taken for the consideration and acceptance in today's ministerial meeting. Ministers from G20 nation invitee countries and international organizations are attending the meet. The Digital Economy Working Group meeting concluded on Friday. The Digital Economy Group offers inspiration and broad guidance to policymakers on harnessing the digital potential of economies. The working group aims at digital transformation to enhance public participation and also realize inclusive social and economic growth. We are moving for a short break, but still to come on DD India Live. US, South Korea and Japan agree to deepen military ties at Trilateral Leaders Summit at David Camp. West African bloc says it is ready for military intervention in Niger if an order is given. And British Columbia declares state of emergency as wildfires tear through the region.
The Prime Minister addressed countrymen as his family, mere parivarjano, setting the agenda for the politics of the coming months.
One is through identity, consciousness, and on the other hand, BJP is trying to address the marginality.
Opposition is really finding it hard to find a credible, logical narrative against this appeasement attack.
With a majority like this, if the Prime Minister does not take the bold decisions that he has taken, then who will?
The Prime Minister addressed countrymen as his family, mere parivarjano, setting the agenda for the politics of the coming months.
One is through identity, consciousness, and on the other hand, BJP is trying to address the marginality.
Opposition is really finding it hard to find a credible, logical narrative against this appeasement attack.
With a majority like this, if the Prime Minister does not take the bold decisions that he has taken, then who will?
Welcome back after that short break. Well, the leaders of the US, South Korea and Japan agreed to elevate cooperation between their countries during a trilateral meeting at President Joe Biden's retreat, Camp David. In a joint statement summit, the three countries committed to consult promptly with each other during crisis and to coordinate responses to regional challenges and threats affecting common interests. The three nations also agreed to hold trilateral military training exercises annually and also to share real-time information on North Korean missile launches by the end of 2023. India, along with the World Health Organization, is launching the Global Initiative on Digital Health today. Now, it comes as part of a joint meeting of health and finance ministers in the western state of Gujarat. It is the culmination of discussions of the task force meetings held during the G20 presidency of India. The health ministers' meeting in Gandhinagar began with a yoga session. Delegates performed yoga and meditation. A number of side events are also being held during the summit, including one-on-one traditional medicine. Delegations from more than 80 countries and health ministers from 31 countries are taking part in the summit. One delegate from Germany also praised India's G20 presidency and the role of the health working group.
I have been here for the fourth time now here in India, as we were here for all the health working groups, and we've had a wonderful time. The Indian presidency and our Indian colleagues have done a fantastic job at greeting us here, and yeah, we're very interested in the three priorities India has set, and Lav has done an incredible job, our chief negotiator, in making everyone feel at home. So we're looking forward to the ministerial now. Thank you so much.
Japan is hoping it can now begin its controversial plan to discharge treated radioactive water into the Pacific Ocean. Tokyo needs to dispose of more than 1 million tons of water used to cool the wrecked Daiichi nuclear plant at Fukushima, and reports suggest it may start doing so as soon as this month. Chris Gilbert reports from Tokyo.
Japan is hoping that this Trilateral summit is the last bridge it needs to cross to begin the discharge of treated water into the Pacific Ocean. It has the support of the IAEA, the rubber stamp from the International Atomic Watchdog, which says that the plan is up to international safety standards. It has spoken to the fishers in Fukushima who have suffered brand damage since the meltdown and are concerned about the ongoing impact of the water discharge. It has taken its pitch to the Pacific Island Forum, all the countries there that are concerned about the discharge, trying to soothe those ruffled feathers with messages of how safe the water is. And finally, there's South Korea, a country which still maintains a ban on food imports from Fukushima, a country which still sees mass protests frequently against the discharge project, but yet a country which at the executive level, at the presidential level, has recently warmed ties with at least the government of Japan and Fumio Kishida, the Prime Minister. This is good news for the US. It wants these two countries working together, despite all the bad blood that they share, going all the way back to Japan's at times very brutal rule of the Korean Peninsula, all the way up to World War II. This has been a sticking point for previous administrations. It is not a sticking point for this administration. It is an opportunity for Washington to get the two of them working together to meet its interests in the Indo-Pacific region before administrations change and the whole thing may come undone. Chris Gilbert in Tokyo, reporting for DD India.
Army chiefs of the West African bloc have agreed to an undisclosed D-Day when they say they will intervene to restore peace in Niger. It follows a coup last month with the military junta now in control of the country. The ECOWAS bloc has a standby force ready for possible military intervention if diplomatic efforts fail. Canada battles deadly wildfires. The Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, has said the federal government will actively contribute to help communities rebuild following terrible losses as the country continues to battle its worst ever wildfire season. Meanwhile, British Columbia has declared a state of emergency and has ordered 15,000 people to evacuate. Experts also say climate change has exacerbated wildfire problems, leading to bad air quality and climbing temperatures. Wildfires are not unusual in Canada's western provinces, but this year the eastern provinces have witnessed extreme fires resulting to hot weather. A protest broke out in Pakistan's commercial capital, Karachi, on Friday. Pakistani traders protested against rising petrol and electricity prices. Earlier this week, Pakistan announced a hike in petrol and high-speed diesel prices, a second such hike this month. Meanwhile, caretaker Information Minister Murtaza Solanki said that the government is incapable of reducing the costs due to an agreement with the International Monetary Fund. The 55th ASEAN Economic Ministers meeting is scheduled to begin today in the ongoing ASEAN Summit in Indonesia. Hundreds of delegates from 23 countries, various international organizations and international business associations would attend the meeting. The series of meetings include the launch of the new ASEAN Tariff Search Portal, signing of a memorandum, launch of the registration of intellectual property rights and signing of the Second Amendment Protocol. And it's time for some sports action now. To begin with tennis, Carlos Alcaraz was forced to endure 3 sets for the third match in a row at the Cincinnati Open as he clinched a semi-final spot after beating Max Purcell. The Wimbledon champion and world number 1 triumphed by 4-6, 6-3 and 6-4 on Friday in a 2-hour-long clash with the Australian qualifier. The victory means he is only 2 wins away from his third ATP 1000 title of the season after winning at Indian Wells and in Madrid earlier this year. Alcaraz will face Hubert Hurkacz in the next round after the Pole avoided an embarrassing turn of events to come through against Alexei Popyrin. Second seed Novak Djokovic also advanced to the last 4 of the Cincinnati Masters. Djokovic beat American Taylor Fritz by 6-0, 6-4 at the Lindner Tennis Family Center today. Djokovic will face German player Alexander Zverev next. In women's singles category, number 2 seed Aryna Sabalenka got past 5th seed Ons Jabeur by 7-5, 6-3 to reach the semi-finals for the second straight year. Jabeur got treatment on her right foot during the second set and struggled after that. Sabalenka will face Karolina Muchova, who advanced when Mary Buskova retired with a right thigh injury. In another women's singles clash, number 7 seed Coco Gauff of the United States moved into the Western and Southern Open semi-finals for the first time with a 6-3, 6-2 victory over Italian qualifier Jasmine Polini. Gauff eased past world number 43 Polini in 1 hour and 12 minutes. American women to make it into the singles quarterfinal on home soil this week with this Swiatek, and in the semi-finals Gauff will face world number 1 Iga Swiatek. For the first time after the Second World War, Commonwealth Games in 2026 may not happen as the Australian host city, Victoria, has pulled out, citing a projected cost blowout. Victoria Premier Daniel Andrews on Saturday said the Australian state will pay $243 million to Commonwealth Games organisers.
Unavoidable, and for the best of reasons, it's simply not possible for us to be able to host these games in 2026, not without incurring enormous costs that far outweigh the benefits of these games. But I can confirm a final settlement, $380 million, not a dollar more, no court action. The matter is closed out and finalised.
The third place match of the Women's FIFA World Cup between Sweden and Australia is currently underway at the Brisbane Stadium. Fridolina Rolfo gave Sweden lead in the 30th minute of the match from the spot. Now Rolfo was made to wait for a long time before taking the penalty, but she does not let the delay bother her and put the ball home into the bottom right corner. And with this, it's a wrap here on DD India Live, but news and updates will continue here on DD India. So don't go anywhere, keep watching and keep tracking DD India for all latest news and updates. Thanks for joining us.